Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Transportation Information Mapping System webinar. My name is Mike Fitch with the Ohio LTAP Center here at ODOT, and we appreciate your participation. As we get started, please take a moment to locate the questions box in the GoToWebinar panel. During the presentation today, please use the questions box to send in any questions you might have. With that, we will go ahead and turn things over to Katie Robertson. Hello.
Hi, Mike. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Hi, everyone, and welcome for another training webinar for ODOT's mapping system, Transportation Information Mapping System. Hopefully you can already see that on your screen, and we're going to get started just interactively working our way through the website. So if you have an extra monitor, you're welcome to bring TIMS up and you can follow along as we go. If at any time you miss something, feel free to go to that chat pod and ask if I can revisit that, spend some more time on something. I am using my full monitor today, so I might try changing my Zoom, but if anyone has any issues seeing what's happening on the screen, then just let us know and we can make adjustments. So as Mike introduced, I'm Katie Robertson. I work with ODOT's Office of Technical Services, and we provide GIS support in a variety of ways for offices within ODOT and external agencies. And my main role is supporting this TIMS application. And we consider TIMS our public-facing portal for publishing a lot of the information that we produce here at ODOT about our roadways. So just like our tagline says, we want to bring you better data to help you make better decisions. And TIMS keeps growing. We are publishing additional data sets all the time. So today we won't be able to touch on every single bit of data, but hopefully you'll get a good overview of all the tools and the types of information and how you can get that information through TIMS. And if you're left with any questions, I'm going to have a contact address. I'll go through each of these links on the webpage, but we'll go ahead and bring up this contact link on the bottom of the page. If you take anything away from today's webinar, I hope that it's this. Remember that we have this contact link at the bottom where you'll find an email address. And any emails sent to this address will go to myself and several of my colleagues, so someone will get back to you right away. And you can ask questions about data if there's any technical issues with the website happening, if you want to request something that you couldn't find in TIMS, any of those are welcome there. So I'm going to get back to my home page. I can click this TIMS logo in the top right of the top left of the title bar, or as you saw down in the bottom in the footer, there's a home link there as well. And we'll go through the rest of these links. Mostly, yeah, so sometimes we'll keep our training, our in-person training schedule loaded, but obviously over the past year, things have been a little bit different. We talked about that contact. The help link will open a PDF user guide that you can search through if you just need a quick reminder on how any of the tools work. So that's something you could keep open, just remember that it's there. And a link to external ohio.gov page if you are wanting to link to any of anything that they offer on that main website. Additionally, I'm going to do a square around the screen and come up to this ODOT Zephyr. That is a hyperlink to ODOT's homepage. So it's good to remember that that is there. And search by PID. If we knew our PID, if we knew our project ID, we could type it in here and it would zoom directly to that project information, but we are going to start on the left side of this toolbar and work our way across. So we're going to start with the project search page. So obviously ODOT, we're doing a lot of projects on the roadways and we store a lot of information about those projects. We store this information in a system called ELLIS, and you can see reference to that here. And from ELLIS, we bring most of the projects through to TIMS. And I'm going to read this paragraph at the top of the page to help you understand what projects come through and what projects might not. So here on the project search page, you can find transportation projects from ODOT's project database, that's ELLIS. The search includes projects with 1, funding categories of ELLIS multi-lane, major rehab, STIP, major bridge, safety HSP, safety SRTS, local programs, and track. Please don't ask me what each of those stand for. Number 2, they are completed, current, or future projects with committed funding, and that's key. And 3, they have a valid work location entered into ELLIS. We can't map it if we don't have a location. The information provided here is an overview of the project information, not a comprehensive view of the full ELLIS project database. Project information available in TIMS is updated on a nightly basis. Projects with multiple work locations will result with multiple records. And you can see that down at the bottom of the screen. PID 4082, you can see that it has several records and different state routes. And then we have this record here that has no location, so we wouldn't be able to view that on the map, obviously. I'm going to change the number of results that I'm viewing just to make it fit nicely on a page. And here at the bottom, you can see we're bringing in over 70,000 project records, and that's a lot. So we certainly don't want to have to flip through those manually. And that's why we have the filter tools at the top to help you. So today, I picked a project for us to use as an example, and I know that it's in Licking County. So I'm typing so that I don't have to scroll all the way through the drop-down list. And all of our drop-down lists throughout TIMS will work that way. You can type to filter. You'll see that it automatically populated my district. If I was starting with a district and wasn't, if I picked a district first, then my county drop-down list would be filtered to just the counties in that district. And I know that the project I'm looking for is in construction this year. So I'm going to add my calendar year filters to 2021. And I know that my primary work category for this project is culvert maintenance. So culvert preservation, I'm going to pick that. And you'll see that's narrowed it down to PID 104780, and that is the project that we're going to focus on. I've got 2 records here, and you'll see that they both are on the same route, and they begin at about the same location. One of them has an end CTL, that's County Township Log, and I'll refer to these as log points throughout today's webinar. And the one below it, it just has a 0, it has no end. So the way that these are going to map, if I have a begin and an end log point, I can draw a line on the map along the roadway corresponding to those numbers, and that'll make sense more as we dive into that. For the second record, I only have a beginning log point, so I can just draw that on the map as 1 point. So it's something to keep in mind when you see multiple records for PIDs. So we could go ahead and click this View on Map button now and take it over to the map, but first I want to show you the project information page, and you can access that by hovering over the magnifying glass to the left of each record. If you hover over it, it'll say View Details. When I click that, I'm going to open it in a new tab, just helps me stay organized as we go through this on the webinar. It will open all of the attributes for that project in this layout that hopefully makes it really easy to navigate and understand. And you can see construction dates, funding information, the engineering information, and then at the bottom there are links for project plans. So if the plans are loaded into this separate system, you'll be able to view them, and that's digital paper that's managed by ODOT's Office of Contracts. So recently they had some upgrades to their system, and for some reason now when you first open, the first time you click the link, it brings you to this page, this default home page. So we haven't quite figured out why yet, but just note that if you just close that and click it again, it does work that second time. So it'll link you directly to the plans for that PID. And then to view them, there's a link over at the right. Just click that and it will download. And we'll go ahead and take a quick look. So you can see it's the engineering plans. If that information is useful for you, hopefully that's a really easy way to access that. Okay, so now you could hit the back button if I hadn't changed this to a new tab, and that should remember all of your search settings. But we'll close those tabs to get back to this main page. And now I'm going to click the View on Map button. And you can see that I have both of these records selected. And you have to select all the records that you want to send over to the map. So now when I click View on Map, what it's doing is opening this Create a Map page, and then it's making a temporary layer here in this results layer grouping for those projects. And you can see something looks different. So I'm already a little thrown off, like why they're drawing this should both be here. Even though I was just doing this. There we go. Okay. So it should zoom you to the location. You can see I have one line record. Down here, I can see all of those attributes in my results table that we saw in a different format on the project information page. And then I'm also going to have one record for the points, and I can view those in the results table by picking that in the layers grouping, the down arrow, and then choose show attributes. And again, you'll see all of those, including the links to the project plans. Okay, so now that we're here on the Create a Map page, let's step back for a minute and say I wanted to zoom to this location. I already knew my route and my log point. You can see that it's in the name of the project. So if you're working with the roadway data, it's information that you're likely to already have. And this will bring us to this toolbar. Of course, when we first open the map page, it opens to this Set Visible Layers tab. And our next option, Find Locations. I like to think of this as our zoom tools. These are tools that will help you zoom to a location on the map. So this last option, Find Area, I could just zoom to Licking County. Again, I can type to filter that list. I could pick a log point, and we've made it pretty easy to do that with these pick lists. So I know I want Licking County, and then that will generate a table of the route. So I know I want US Route 40. And then you'll see within that county, it gives me the valid log points from begin to end. Just as a reference, I know that I want 14.9. And now when I click Find, it's going to report that information here, my NLF ID, that's the unique identifier for this route, and my county log point. And you'll see it also reports latitude and longitude, so that's helpful if you wanted to copy that for anything. And then back on my set visible layers, you'll see that it's generated yet another results table. So every time we do a search in TIMS, it's going to generate one of these. And these will only remain for that current browser session. So if I wanted to reset and clear all of these out, the easiest way is probably to just close my browser and reopen it and go back to TIMS. But we're going to leave them here, and we'll zoom back and forth so hopefully you can become familiar with how to work with those. And I can view that in the results table as well, just some basic information. Similar to searching for a log point, you can search for, if you have a coordinate, you can paste that in here. And you can do decimal degrees or degrees, minutes, seconds. And you can also use this tool, the find lat long and the find log point. We'll go back and do that one also. But you can use it to report the XY of a location. So if I select the click on map button to activate the tool, I'll have my crosshairs icon over the map and I can click anywhere. It'll draw a little flag and it will report that coordinate. And same for my find log point. So we know that our log point in the project name was the beginning log point. We could click at the end to view that. Okay, and we also have the find address or intersection. And of course, we give you an example of the format it expects if you're gonna search for an address. I'm gonna clear that and show how we could search for a intersection. So this is US 40. I'm gonna use the and sign. And I see Hamilton Avenue on the map. So I'll say Hamilton Avenue. And you will need to give a city. So I know this is Hebron area. Click find, and there you go. So now back at our set visible layers, we've got quite a few. And the names it generates are always going to be pretty generic, but you can pretty much figure out, what that search result is going to be, or reopen the results table. And each time you do a search, each time one of these results layers is generated, it's going to show up in the list at the top left. So they will be in order. Okay, so we have these temporary project lines and points turned on. If I go to my legend, you'll see that even these temporary layers, these results layers, will generate in the legend. And let's move on to this next tool in our toolbar, the identify features, and see if it can tell us the information about those selected projects that we drew on the map. So I activated the tool by clicking it in the toolbar, and then I had my crosshairs icon. That's how I know it's activated. I click over the layer in the map that I want to get the attribute information for, and you'll see I had that project points and the project line, so I could switch between them. And we get here in the identify results, it's all that same information that we saw on the project information page and in the results table. Now it's just in this format that you can scroll easily and see as a list all of the tabular information, all of those attributes. And again, the links to those contracts. Okay, so a couple of other ways that we could explore this area of this project of interest before we start diving into all the other attributes that we can turn on. We've got a couple of different ways just to reference some information, and that will bring us to some options under this fourth icon on our toolbar, tools, and we can link to Let's start with this PathWeb system. ODOT PathWeb is the program that is managed in the Office of Technical Services. They drive the roadways in those fancy vans with all the cameras and lasers and collect this information on the roadways, and it's published to the public. So just like the other tools in TIMS, I selected the tool to activate it, and then I clicked on the roadway. It grabs that location and sends it over to the PathWeb application. First time you go, you'll probably get that message. And you'll see here it is just the video log of the roadway, and they've added some useful information, including pavement condition rating, average annual daily traffic counts, and the average annual daily truck counts. And I can use this system to travel down the roadway. It's pretty good quality imagery if I need to gather information on assets that are along the side of the roadway. So that's a really good resource to remember. And you can see the roadway scans also. This is how I believe the condition ratings it's involved in calculating the pavement condition ratings. Okay, another system, Map Channel. This is just a third-party resource. It's not managed by ODOT, but we think it can be really useful. So this one doesn't need to be selected right on the roadway. You can click anywhere, and just something that's changed over time. Now they have this cover page. So just click that View on Map link. And basically it combines all of the options for Google Maps into one screen so you can see them all at the same time. And you'll see it dropped a pin where I clicked in TIMS, and then it set the little navigation guy on the roadway closest to that location. And then I could use the Street View. You'll see that they all stay in sync. So that's also really useful for exploring the area before you go out in the field. Okay, while we are in this tools menu, we'll just quickly go over these options. So bookmark, we could create a bookmark for this project if it's something that we know we're going to want to zoom back to a lot, a certain area. That's not my bid. If I remembered what it was. So, you could just name it something useful. And this will stay, it creates a cookie in your browser. So until you delete your browser cache and browser cookies, this will stay in your browser session. So you'll be able to close the browser, reopen it, come to TIMS, and that bookmark will still be there until you clear out all of your browser data. And then the draw tool is basically you could draw a shape. I think maybe most useful would be you could add a note to the map. So you could be like, project site, you can change the colors. Then I'm going to click draw and place it somewhere. Click to add a point. There you go. And now that this text is on the site, of course, it'll just be for this browser session, but if I wanted to print a view of this, that text would be included in that print PDF. And the final one is a measure tool, and this can be pretty useful just as a general reference tool because we have a lot of different measurement units, and you can even report coordinates as eastings and northings in state plane. So if that's something that you use, it's a pretty easy way to get those values. I can activate the distance, say I want to know double click to complete. I want to know how many feet that is from beginning to end of the project. So you can easily convert. You can see it at the top, it changes as I change units. And area, you would draw a polygon shape. It works similarly. Double click to finish. So that's a good tool to know that that's available. And I'm going to click clear. I believe if I go back to my draw, I can click reset. Oh, I thought maybe it would clear that, but it didn't. So that's going to stay there for this browser session. Okay, so I mentioned it would show up if you went to print this view. And so that's going to bring us over to this small toolbar at the top right corner of our map pane. We could use our base map options to get more information on this area. Just some different ways of viewing. But then we also have the OSIP imagery, Ohio Statewide Imagery Program. And these are the aerial photographs. I believe the state is flown on a 2-year cycle. And they are currently, they have an even greater resolution, higher quality imagery product that they are compiling together for one statewide service. So hopefully soon we'll be able to publish that here through TIMS as well. And once I've chosen my base map, I can just print a generic view. It's not going to include my legend, but it should include any text that I've added and anything that you see in that map pane. So there you go. And then the final tool in this little toolbar is the share with your friends. When you select this tool, it generates a URL, and you can see it's got some coordinate information in there. It's referencing the layers that you had turned on. So you can copy this, send it in an email, save it to a file, and then when you or someone else opens this link, it should take you back to that area. And it even retained those selected projects that we had. I'm sure that I did something wrong that got us with this selected lineup here, because I did practice, but we're gonna just keep rolling with it. Okay, you'll note it's even remembering the base map that I had turned on, and it's really slow to draw that base map because that's really high resolution imagery. So it's good to remember if you ever come to TIMS and it's just spinning like this, it's not drawing. Try changing your base map first because your browser will remember that in your browser settings as well. So if it's ever just drawing, that's just the first thing that you can always check, or it's ever spinning and not drawing. Okay. In our share link. Okay, so let's go back to our set visible layers. And you'll see that there are some options under these results layers to remove. I have found that if I navigate away from this page and then use my back button, those will like reappear. So they are there and they can be useful, but usually I will just leave them all in my session, and I can turn them off if I don't want them drawing all over the map. Okay, so this results layer, that is layers that we've generated here in our session. We have all of these other data buckets or groupings, and we'll try to give you a pretty brief overview now of what kind of information you can find here. So under assets, conduit. So I think I didn't talk about, we know that our project, of course, it's Culvert maintenance, and recently republished the full culvert data set, and it's renamed conduits now. So if we know that we've got culvert or conduit maintenance on this project, we'll turn on conduits and we can definitely expect to see a conduit there on that area of the roadway. Switch my base map. Okay. Of course, when we map these project locations, we are using those log points, so they're always going to be snapped to the roadway. Whereas with the conduit inventory, the location is where that location was collected in the field. So they're using GPS in the field usually to collect this. And we're going to use our identify features to take a look at this layer that we have turned on. And I'm probably going to want to refresh since it's going to freeze up. You know, I think TIMS is like a little shy because it never does this when it's just me. But once I get on the webinars, it always likes to do something. I'm going to go back to our create a map. I'm going to zoom back to that log point. And then I'm going to clear that, go back to my layers, and you'll see now that I've reset, I don't have those results layers. Turn on my conduits, activate my identify tool, select that record, and we'll see all of the attribute information for that specific record from the conduits database. And you'll see, you know, a lot of this information will be presented to you in different places. So we try to make it very easy. And you've already had a quick look at our Office of Contracts digital paper application. So a lot of our asset databases will have direct links in the table, so you could get those project plans directly from the conduits database. And information about this feature, a link to documents that this is a link inside the ODOT network, so that's more for our engineers to access. And most of our assets will include these fields: image attach inventory and image attach inspection. You'll see that they're null values for this particular record, but I do know that 2 records down, we should have a value. So if there is an attachment, a photo that was taken in the field, then the URL will show up here. You can click that. And here's all the images that were attached. So that's a good way to get more information. And if these fields are going to be included on a data set, they're usually going to be towards the bottom of the table. So you know, you can just remember to scroll down about this area. Okay. Let's see. We've got our pavement condition ratings as a separate layer. So we saw the pavement condition ratings as part of our PathWeb system. So we also have it published here as a layer. And as we turn layers on, it's going to show us what the symbols represent on the Legend tab. We have the sign inventory for this area, another asset that's going to have a lot of information in its attribute table. So we can see details for the type of sign. This data set includes a direct link to PathWeb to that location. And again, we have links to the photo attachments. Okay. So if you have any questions about specific data sets, then you can speak up or post a question to the chat pod, but I'll just kind of briefly go through the rest of these categories. Boundaries, these are going to be all of your reference polygons. Um, the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio, who's the electric provider or the telephone provider, Senate and House districts. Under environmental, we have a lot of maintenance restrictions for any restrictions to activities along the roadway. There's some other useful reference information like soil type. Under our projects grouping, we can turn on the projects that are currently in construction. I should be turning these layers off as I go to keep the map from being too cluttered. And then here's the project that we've been talking about, the Culvert Preservation. If I wanted to have a quick reference of all the projects that have occurred on this section of the roadway, I can turn on all projects linear and use my identify tool to click on that piece of the roadway, and then I could quickly scroll through all 13 records. And this is going to be all the records that we've brought from Ellis into our project database. I believe the records in Ellis go back to 2003, but we also have older records stored in this project history layer.
Hey, Katie.
Yeah,
When you have a moment, we have a question.
awesome, let's hear it.
Yeah, can you show how to find a log point on a specific location, say on State Route 63 at State Route 741?
Okay, so if I want to zoom to that location first because I have an intersection, I'm probably going to want to start with my intersection find. And so I believe State Route, can you repeat those?
State Route 63 at State Route 741.
And because I'm not sure what city that would be, so I'm going to choose something that I'm familiar with so I can enter in that route, but the functionality would be the same.
Okay.
So I'm going to do State Route 161 and Interstate Route 71 because I know that is in Columbus. And looks like it's giving me 2 results here in the bottom. So let me pick one. Okay, so that got me to the intersection. And now I can use my Find Log Point tool, the click on map feature to activate that tool and click on the roadway. So you can see for 161, that log point is going to be 11.408. If I wanted it to be for 71, I guess I'd want to zoom in and make sure that I was clicking directly over Route 71. Okay. So hopefully that was what you were after.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, so I think, yeah, we left off looking at some project information. Then, of course, we have our roadway information and all the information about the roadways, again, with the identify tool. Lots of attribute information, a lot of codes that are used. So in a minute, I will show you how you can get more information about the fields and the codes that might be in those attributes. But we will just finish our last data section. Safety, you might be familiar with the GCAT system, and we hold separate webinars to train, and it's actually hosted within the TIMS platform, so the functionality in that GCAT map will be very similar. But we have just a subset of that huge safety crash database published here in TIMS Create a Map. So you could access that information from here. Okay. Check my notes real quick, see if I've not forgotten something. Oh yeah, okay. There were some other data sets I wanted to highlight that we have under the roadway category. We have our traffic count stations. We saw that traffic count, the AADT values in PathWeb. You can also look at the data sets directly here, and the stations where those counts are collected, and then the segments where those counts are applied to the roadway. The state and US bike routes is a good reference information. And our straight line diagrams are a really good engineering resource. You can select a section of roadway and you'll just get this link to a PDF that has the automatically generated straight line diagram for that section of the roadway with all those attributes. Okay. So whatever data it is that we want to turn on, right? We go there and we choose it. Say we want to select some of those records, not just pick one individual record with the identify tool. So let's do our conduits as an example. And we're going to go to the next tool in our toolbar, filter data. And again, we have a couple of different ways that we can do this. We can choose all of the conduits that are within our county. We can draw a graphic. Let me get back into this area. Say we wanted to get my bad. I right-clicked on my mouse, but that's okay. We can just turn our conduits back on, and I can draw a point shape in this general area, create a buffer, say of 400 meters. You'll see, oh, something a little more meaningful, and populate a list of all of the conduit features within that area. That's probably, yeah, a lot. It's going to generate one of those results layers, and it's going to populate them all here in the results table. Let's make that. I froze it up. And just like we saw with that draw tool, we can draw a point or a line or a polygon. It's the same behavior with the measure tool as well. So if it's activated, you're going to get those cues to click and then double click to finish. Yeah, okay. So let's do the line so you can see that. I was just going along a section of roadway and then search. It's probably going to want a little bit of a buffer if I'm not directly snapped to that roadway. Oh. Okay, and it selected that one feature, so I can expand that buffer if I need to. And now I've got 3 features. Okay, and another way that we can select a group is by those attributes. So we could see if there's a field that has the county information and is for equals, clicking. But now I also want to pick by their appraisal ratings. So I'm going to add an additional filter, and I'm going to look for a field that will contain that information. So general appraisal, say is less than 5. So 42 conduit features in Licking County have a general appraisal of less than 5. And then if I only wanted to view that subset, I could turn off my main layer, and I'm just viewing those 42. So what do these attributes mean? What does that general appraisal code stand for? So to get more information on that, we're going to skip over to our data glossary. I'm going to open a new tab in case I want to come back. And here is a drop-down list of all the data sets that are published in TIMS. So just like everywhere else, you can start typing to filter. And I caught this right before the meeting. I mentioned before that it was culverts, and we just recently renamed it to conduits, but I have not updated our glossary, so I'm going to get that fixed tomorrow. But it is in there as culvert. So once I've picked a data set, it's going to list all the fields with a description. You can see there are 148 fields in this data set. So I'm going to use the search box to find appraisal field. And in my general appraisal, in the description, I can see that the best condition is going to be the highest rating, and 5 would be a fair, and below that would be getting into the poor ratings.
Hey, Katie,
Yeah,
we have another question.
yay.
Is there a way to search for a specific group of assets and show on a map, for example, multiple specific bridge structure file numbers in a list?
So if you had a list of structure file numbers, right now it would be a little bit clunky because you would need to turn on the full bridge inventory under assets. And you can see there are a lot of them. And then when you went to create your attribute filter, unfortunately, you would have to SFN, you would have to add a filter for each. Hopefully, in our next release of TIMS, which maybe next year or the year after, we're currently working on requirements for that. We'll have the ability to pick multiple attributes from the list, but right now you can only pick one value at a time. So you could, and you'll see it'll populate the list, but you can only pick one at a time. So if you didn't have an incredibly long list, you could do it that way. And we know that enhanced abilities to search some of these data sets like bridges, these really large data sets, we know that's really important. So that's a main focus for when we're trying to design the next phase of TIMS. So hopefully that's going to get a lot more user-friendly. Okay. Oh, the last tool here on the toolbar, if you have a shapefile or a spreadsheet with addresses, you can load those in and draw them on TIMS, draw them in TIMS as a temporary layer. So perhaps in the next version of TIMS, you would also be able to load in a list of structure file numbers or something like that. We're hoping to expand. If you had a spreadsheet of bridge data that included the NLF ID and the log point, then you could load that information. So I can give you a quick example. I think I may have a spreadsheet. I'm not sure if I do. You can see we have about 10 minutes left. So if this is going to cause me too much trouble, I might just invite the attendee that had that question to send an email, and I could work with them one-on-one. Okay. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to cancel out of this now just so I don't use up our last 10 minutes and make sure that I get through just the last couple of features here in TIMS. While I'm waiting on this to close, while we're in the glossary page, I filtered with the search box, and you can see that we also have that generic search tool in our results table, and it's also in the results part of the project search page. So that's a really good way to filter down. There we go. To filter down any of the results. Okay, let's see. Okay, so quick look at our glossary. We did that. And also you can always look at these links next to, the links are going to show for every record, every field, but they're actually for the database level. So you can see if you hover over it, you'll get a description of that data set and then how often it's updated. And if this middle link is activated, it will usually take you to a website that is managed by the office that owns that particular data set to get more information. So if we wanted to choose, we can see Walk Bike Ohio to get more information. So it's worth checking out to see if we've got a link there. Okay, we have, data download. If we want to download a full data set, all of those data sets that we saw in the Create a Map page are also pre-packaged to download. So you just have to find them in the list. You can select as many as you want. And then under Export Data, you just pick your format. And it will start generating or downloading those files for you. And what you'll get is a zipped folder. Inside that zipped folder will be another zipped folder for each data set. So hopefully that makes sense because all of these are pre-packaged and then we package them up into a final zip file at the end there if you have multiple selected. Okay, our standard PDFs, these are some basic map templates. We have the print tool on the Create a Map page that just prints a very basic map. A lot of offices have a need to generate a more detailed map on a regular basis, so we have some print templates for them. So we could do the construction season for Licking County, and I'll choose the small size. Hopefully it will generate quickly. Just to show you one example. And once we finish up here on this page, there we go. So you can see it's got legend information, some titles, some basic information like that. Okay, and then our final page, map viewers. So just like a lot of users or departments had a need for a specific map template, we get a lot of requests for a specific map page, like the Create a Map, but with only the layers that they want to see or with a different symbology. So I chose active transportation just to show you an example. You can see the tools all work exactly the same. Everything looks the same. just what we have populated in the layers list is focused for the active transportation purpose. So we've got that layer state and US bike route system, but it's split out with different ways of symbolizing that data. And specific layers. So here, crash data is filtered for just what applies to their work, and some additional layers that are only published here in this viewer. So those are worth exploring. The layers that we have in these specific map viewers aren't going to be included in the data glossary, but if you have questions, of course, you're welcome to email us. Okay, and then our final, we started with this search by PID, but we didn't actually use it. So at any time, if we've figured out our PID, I forget what it is already, but okay, I have one on hand, so. It didn't find that PID because it wasn't valid, but it took me to this 104780. So if I had entered the correct PID, it would bring me back to this project search page where I could then navigate through the way that we've already done. So hopefully everyone's gained pretty good understanding of how to navigate through the TIMS site and how to look inside of all of these data sets that we publish and get information from the attribute table with the identify tool and the results tables and the filter tools. The data glossary as a resource on what attributes are included in a table and a description of those attributes and the data set. And then also the help link at the bottom for that PDF that will serve as a resource for where the tools and how to use the tools within the TIMS application. We have just a couple more minutes if anyone has any final questions.
All right, the questions box is open. We'll see if anybody sends in any questions.
The hour goes by fast, and hopefully everyone's still awake. Hopefully I didn't put you to sleep. And if there are any questions that you think of later, again, you can just go to TIMS. If you don't already have TIMS bookmarked, I'll just finish out our last few minutes with all the different ways that you can get to TIMS. Of course, you can memorize the URL, gis.dot.state.oh.us/TIMS. You can find the link on the ODOT homepage. Oh, that's right, I forget where it is now on this new homepage. You can just Google search ODOT TIMS, and that should be the first result, so that's probably the easiest way. And that's all I have.
All right, well, Katie, we have a message from Troy who says, thank you for this training, and you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, thank you, Katie, so much for presenting, and thanks, everybody, for your participation today.